Yeah, Mike, it's a different personality for sure. I mean, Craig Berube certainly had more familiarity with the Flyers organization, been here as a player, was an assistant coach for many years. Dave Hakstol, coming from the last 11 years at the University of North Dakota, this is a really serious guy. I mean, in terms of the systems, it might be a little bit different. I don't think it'll be drastically different, but you just look at the personality of the guy. He's a no-nonsense coach. And that seems to be the cycle. Last time around, the Flyers had a players coach. The guy before that, Peter Laviolette, was known as a no-nonsense guy. The guy before that, John Stevens, was a players coach. So this is kind of just continuing that cycle, I think.
Are the players taking to him? I know a lot of times when something's new, it seems like, the players all like it, and everything seems honky-dory until games start and things start falling off the tracks. But do you get a sense that these guys are happy with this hire?
Well, they're still very much in that honeymoon phase right now. Be honest with you, a lot of these guys, a lot of the Flyers that are on the roster are Canadian guys that came from Canadian juniors that aren't as familiar with American college hockey, and to be quite honest, didn't know who he was when the Flyers hired him. I don't think that's really strange considering how far outside the box Ron Hakstol went with this hire. But so far he's got the respect of everybody, and that's what's really the most important, I guess. For now, anyway, it seems as though everybody's on board.
They did make a couple of moves today. Ivan Provorov was one. He was the 7th overall pick. Some people thought that he had a shot, and he went down today. Was that an early surprise that they already sent him back to juniors?
Yeah, I thought they would have kept some of these guys around for a little bit longer. They sent all 3 of their last picks, 2 of which coming this year. One, Travis Sanheim last year. Travis Konechny was the guy who really opened the most eyes, I think, so far in this training camp. Last night he had an assist. He played very well. The night before that in Allentown he had a goal in what was his first preseason action with the Flyers. He's a little bit like Danny Briere in that he's an undersized forward, but his game is drastically different. I think he compares more to a Ryan Callahan, for those that are familiar with that name down in Tampa Bay now. He's a guy that, I think, and I've heard this quite a bit this preseason, people 5 years from now will look at this draft and go, wow, the Flyers got Konechny at 24. He should have been way higher than that. So, the future looks good for the Flyers, but I think there's been enough talk in the past few months from General Manager Ron Hakstol to know that obviously the future is not now. They're not going to rush any of these kids along. I think it's important, or they think that it's important for their development to go back to their junior team or teams and kind of continue their development before they start their rookie campaigns with the Flyers.
Dave, one guy is Vinny Lecavalier, and it looks like a lot of people had written him off. Is he a guy that the Flyers will get more from with this coaching change?
It's not so much about who's behind the bench. It's about where that person puts Lecavalier on the ice. So far, he's been at center, which is his natural position. That's where he wants to be. It's where he wanted to be last year, and he wasn't. He obviously had a terrible year last year. But the goals that he did score were mostly from right wing because that's where he spent the majority of the season. So, right now he's happy, and when you have a happy player, they're obviously going to try a little bit harder and put a little bit more effort forth. So right now, I think he's in the best spot possible on this team to succeed. Could he be in a better situation with another team? Probably, but nobody's banging down the doors for 34-year-old Vinny Lecavalier who's making $4.5 million for another 3 seasons.
Let me get a couple thoughts on Medvedev too. He's a guy that a lot of people think his transition to the NHL coming to North America. How are you seeing him, and do you think he's a guy that is doing that's going to get some major ice time?
Oh yeah, the Flyers when they signed him absolutely thought of him even in I believe it was May when they signed him out of Russia as a top 4 guy. He's been paired with Michael Del Zotto majority of training camp. Last night he played with Provorov, who was obviously sent back today, as we just talked about. But I would assume that pairing with Del Zotto continues as we move along here throughout the preseason and probably into the regular season. so far he looks like a guy that's very comfortable. I mean, he's coming from, you think mostly about the cultural differences because that's probably got the biggest effect on him, but the game is also a little bit different in Russia where he's from. The rink is a little bit wider there, and he seems very aware of the North American game. He's played physical when he's had to. He's known kind of where that puck was headed. I think he's looked just as good without the puck as he has with it. So all signs right now point to him being, pretty effective as far as the Flyers' defense is concerned. And we all know that they had their issues last year. So, it's not out of the realm of possibility to think of this guy who's coming over to North America for the first time in his life at 33 years old to be part of, the top four of this defensive core. And that's what they're expecting of him. And he's working on the learning English part, but the hockey part seems to be pretty good right now.
What's the plan and goal with now Ray Emery gone? How much can we expect to see Mason? Is the backup goalie situation stronger than it was? Do you think that's weaker than it was letting Emery go?
I think it's absolutely stronger than it was. I think last year was an interesting year because you kind of saw a decline in Ray Emery and his game. And when you couple that with Steve Mason having some injury troubles, there were probably some times when Steve Mason was out on the ice when he probably shouldn't have been because not quite 100% Steve Mason was a better option than 100% Ray Emery. Michael Neuwirth coming in here as the backup, I don't know how many games he's going to steal from Mason. I don't think he's going to take the job, certainly, as the starter. Mason had his best year in terms of goals against average and save percentage for a single season last year, even better in, I believe it was 08-09. But, yeah, the goaltending situation is much better than it was last year just because of Michael Neuwirth coming in here. Steve Mason's healthy right now, but if they get into a situation he does fall upon some injury trouble, Neuwirth's a guy that's done this before. Who's coming over from Germany like Rob here and an older rookie in the NHL. He's 27. He's the same age as Steve Mason, but he's played the games at this level. If something were to happen, which obviously the Flyers are hoping is not the case, it's the kind of guy that can step in and do that. Certainly give me a night off every so.
Any of the younger players, I know Gaspier scored 2 goals Tuesday night. He's 20. Heard a little bit about him the last couple of years. He played a little bit last year. There've been a lot of these younger defenders been around for a couple of years now. Any of them stick this year?
It'll be interesting to see. In fact, as we are on this call right now, have sent Sam to the American Hockey League, and Gostisbehere is still up there with the big. He's kind of one of those fringe guys, but when you look at the way that their depth chart is right now, it's really difficult for anybody to come in here and steal a job. Gostisbehere, he played 2 games last year. The Flyers like what he can do with the puck. When I watch him play in the preseason, it's not. He's not quite there yet. There's that one extra pass that tends to get him in trouble in preseason games. And NHL preseason games are not regular season games. And to a decent game, they're quite the NHL caliber that is what the team is trying to prepare all these guys for. So I don't think there's going to be any real big surprises when it comes to somebody unexpected making this roster.
Dave Isaac has more on the Flyers as they get ready for preseason action that continues. They are off tonight. I know they played the last 2 nights in a row, but having the night off tonight, and as he just mentioned, Sam Moran sent back, so we'll keep our eye on Dave G. Isaac on Twitter for more. And remember, you can listen to the Flyers all season long here on 97.3 ESPN and our sister station, WPG Talk Radio 1450. All right, Dave, good to have you back, pal.
Thanks for having me on.